Am I the asshole? I'm Lena, a remote dev barely holding it together. At 7 a.m., my sister Sabrina dumped 3 kids on my doorstep, Noah, Lily, and Max, shoved a suitcase into my hands and whispered, "They're yours now, I'm pregnant." Then she sped off. My inbox exploded. My heart did too. Family said, "Suck it up, blood is blood." I heard another line. "Don't be selfish, Lena. Tell me, if you were me, would you revenge or stay silent? Comment your take, like and share so more people see this madness." Because what happened next was darker, colder, a twist that made me question every boundary I've ever set. I was shaking, sleep-deprived, gaslit, and cornered. And then she called the cops. Am I the asshole? That's the line running on loop in my head like a bad jingle you can't shut off. I'm Lena, remote dev, caffeine-based life form emotionally held together by sticky notes. And at 7 a.m. on a Tuesday, my sister Sabrina pulled up, didn't even turn the engine off, marched 3 kids, Noah, Lily, and Max, onto my porch, jammed a suitcase into my arms, and dropped a grenade. "They're yours now, I'm pregnant. I need rest." Then she hissed, "Don't screw this up for me." Like I was an employee who'd missed a deadline, not her sister who's been babysitting nights and weekends for months. The car door slammed, taillights vanished. Silence except for the kids' shoes tapping my doormat and my heartbeat pounding in my ears. Shock is a weird feeling. It's heavy and hollow at the same time. I remember hearing my Slack ping explode from the kitchen. Stand up in 10. My manager DMing, all good for the demo. Meanwhile, I've got a 3rd grader asking where the cereal bowls are, a 1st grader clinging to my hoodie, and a kindergartner whispering, "Are we in trouble?" My mouth tried to form the adult words. "It's okay, you're safe." But my brain was just playing Sabrina's voice. "They're yours now," like she'd Venmo'd me a utility bill. I called her. No answer. I texted, "You can't just abandon them." She replied with one sentence that made the air in my lungs turn to nails. "Don't be dramatic. Family helps family." And then another, "If you love them, prove it." That's the kind of line that gets under your skin because it's designed to weaponized guilt. You can almost hear the applause from anyone who's never had boundaries tested. If you love them, prove it. What a beautiful slogan for turning your crisis into someone else's lifestyle. Cue the Greek chorus, our parents. Mom, she's expecting Lena, be kind. Dene, don't make waves, blood is blood. Me, I've been covering for months. I'm working, I'm exhausted. Mom, we all did this in our time. Dad, your sister needs peace. And then the dagger, the one I can't unhear. Stop being selfish. I'm the selfish one. I'm the one with 3 kids in my kitchen, cereal milk on my laptop, and a stand-up meeting starting in 3 minutes. But sure, selfish. Hook for you watching this. If you were me, would you revenge or shut up and carry the weight? Comment your take because people swear this is simple. Spoiler, it isn't. Complexity is coded into the way the kids looked at me. Like I might be the person who keeps the lights on or the person who says, "Not my problem." Every decision gets a human face. I sprinted. School forms, backpacks, shoes that mysteriously reproduce under furniture. Work? I switched my camera off, spoke like my house wasn't a daycare. "Yeah, I'll push the patch after review." My manager asked, "Are you good?" And I told the most American lie. Totally. I wasn't. I was cracking. Your nervous system knows when you're being used. Mine was ringing like a smoke alarm. Days bled into nights. I made color-coded charts, drop-off, pick-up, homework triage, therapist appointment for Noah, who flinched at doors slamming. Lily asked if I could braid her hair like a real mom does, and I smiled while my chest ache stitched itself tighter. Max drew a picture of our house with my name over the door and wrote, "Home." If you think I didn't cry in the shower, you're wrong. I cried quietly, the way adults do when kids are sleeping in the living room. And Sabrina, she Instagrammed a self-care era cappuccino with the caption, "Protect your peace." Protect your peace while I'm protecting your children from your neglect. The audacity. She messaged me lists, peanut-free snacks, BTW, and "Tell Noah's teacher I won't be reachable." I said, "You need to step in." She wrote, "Can't stress the baby." a line as sharp as glass. Here's the shock line that broke something inside me. She called and said, "Do not ruin this for me with your drama." My drama? I was juggling 3 kids, a full-time job, and a collapse in nervous system. But sure, my drama. If this makes your blood boil, drop a like, share this, because people need to hear what family coercion dressed up as love actually sounds like. Transition time. I kept receipts, I saved texts, I saved doorbell video. Why? Because a part of me sensed the next act would not be a reconciliation scene. It would be a courtroom scene. And I was right. The next Friday, the kids were late for school because my stand-up ran long and the bus app glitched. I was packing lunches like a NASCAR pit crew when someone hammered on my door. I opened it and time slowed. 2 officers. "Ma'am, we received a call about children being neglected at this address." My stomach dropped like an elevator cut loose. Sabrina had called the police on me. On me. "She's trying to dump them and now frame me," I said, pulling up the doorbell footage with hands that wouldn't stop shaking. Shockline number 2, burn this into your memory. Sabrina texted me while the cops were in my living room. "This is what happens when you play martyr. Grow up." I showed the officers the message. I showed them the ring cam video of her dropping the kids, the timestamps, the suitcases, "they're yours now." One officer exhaled through his nose, the kind of breath that admits he's seen this before. The other said carefully, "We need to loop in Child Protective Services." The kids heard that phrase, CPS, and the shape of Lily's mouth changed. I got low eye level. "You are safe. I am not letting you go with strangers. We're going to tell the truth." Enter CPS. Contrary to social media myths, the HES worker didn't arrive to snatch children. She arrived with a notebook and the patience of a person who's learned that the loudest adult is often the least honest. She sat at my table next to a glitter glue spill that would not die and asked for a timeline. I had it. Texts, school emails, the ring cam, grocery charges, pediatric co-pays under my card because Sabrina's wallet was in the car. The caseworker nodded, slow and grave. "You've been their primary caregiver for months," she said. Not a question. We visited the school. Noah's teacher said, "Lena is the one who replies. She attends conferences. She's the emergency contact who actually shows up." The school counselor added, "Noah startles easily. He relaxes when he knows Lena is picking him up." I tried to swallow my tears because dignity is expensive and I was almost broke. Steph's interviewed the kids. They said the kinds of truths that make adults stare at the floor. "Mom gets mad if we're loud." "Mom says Lena is dramatic, but Lena makes dinner." Max, my 5-year-old hero, told the caseworker, "Lena's house smells like pancakes." You think details don't matter until a 5-year-old tells a stranger what safety smells like. Sabrina's version, she told CPS I was obsessed, trying to replace her, weaponizing the kids. She said I refused to bring them back. The caseworker asked, "Where is the signed consent for placement? Where are messages showing Lena agreed to a long-term arrangement?" Sabrina sent nothing. Instead, she sent a voice note. My hands shook when I hit play. "If you embarrass me, I'll make your life hell." I watched the caseworker's face change. It's the face of a professional hearing the mask slip. We went to family court. If you're picturing a TV drama, lower your production values. It's fluorescent lights and a judge who's seen everything. Sabrina spoke first. Tears, big words. Postpartum vulnerability, overwhelm. My sister promised to help. I spoke second, voice steady, because when truth is heavy enough, it steadies you. I described the doorbell video, the texts, the calls, the Instagram, the police, the CPS visits, the school. I kept it to facts because facts are the only sharp tools you're allowed to carry in court. Then came the surprise witness, James, the kid's dad. He'd been quiet in the background for too long, partly because Sabrina kept him at arm's length, partly because he believed don't make waves like everyone else. He took a breath and said, "Your Honor, I want custody. The children deserve predictability. I can provide it." He had a family calendar, childcare plan, employer letter, pediatrician statements. He had structure. He had a humble kind of courage, the kind that doesn't trend but changes lives. The judge looked at Sabrina and asked the question that split the room. Why did you abandon your children at your sister's residence without a legal arrangement? Sabrina stammered. I needed... The judge tapped the file. You called law enforcement to accuse the caregiver of neglect while providing no evidence. You used the state as a cudgel. That word, cudgel, landed like a gavel before the gavel. The court granted James full legal and physical custody. Child support from Sabrina was suspended until she established stable, appropriate involvement, supervised visitation, a plan, a path if she wanted to walk it. I walked out trembling. Relief feels like your bones exhale. The kids, after a slow transition, moved in with James. I helped set up their rooms, color-coding drawers, labeling snack bins, sending the school forms in neat stacks instead of the emergency scramble I'd been living in. Noah's shoulders unclenched. Lily laughed from her belly for the first time in months. Max drew a new house with home over James's door and added a second word next to mine, safe. I drove home from James's place and parked outside my building and cried, grief, joy, rage, gratitude, because we had cut a tangled knot without cutting the children. If any of this stoked your sense of justice, hit like, share this story, and tell me in the comments. When family crosses a line, do you enforce the boundary or tolerate the bruise? I chose the line. I paid for it. And I'd pay again. Smooth transition to the final act. After court, you imagine the credits roll. But real life doesn't end with a verdict. It ends when the patterns end. And that's where the last part begins. Post-verdict life is quiet in a way that feels loud at first. You notice the absence. No morning panic, no cereal in your keyboard, no emergency texts while you're presenting a build. It took weeks for my nerves to stop expecting sirens. I cleaned my apartment and it stayed clean. I cooked for one and called that a victory. I slept through the night and woke up with a heart that wasn't sprinting before my feet touched the floor. Recovery is not glamorous. It's 1,000 small recalibrations. Work noticed. My manager said, "You sound like yourself again." I shipped the feature that had been stuck in molasses. A quarter later, I got promoted. Senior Development Lead. The promotion wasn't the prize, my nervous system was. But I won't lie, seeing my name on that email felt like a small, quiet justice. You kept going, I told the version of me who cried on the shower floor. You kept facts, you kept receipts, you kept faith in the boring power of truth. The kids thrived. James sent updates without me asking. Real co-parent energy, even though I'm the aunt. Homework charts, bedtime routines, Saturday soccer for Noah, art class for Lily, dinosaur club for Max, because of course. When I visited, it felt like visiting a place where children were children, instead of tiny firefighters putting out grown-up blazes. They still called me for Pancake Sunday sometimes, my apartment, 3 aprons, flour on our cheeks, and then I sent them home because that's how healthy love works. Presence, not possession. Sabrina married Derek, had the baby, and posted like a triumphant comeback tour. The comments under her photos were a Rorschach test. So happy for you. Motherhood is hard. Be kind. And then the DMs I received, some loving, some venom. How could you take her kids? You wanted to be the hero. The family split followed predictable fault lines. Mom said, "You embarrassed your sister." I said, "She called the cops on me while I protected her children." Dad said, "Couldn't this have stayed private?" I said, "It was never private once she made it my life." Boundary conversations are not polite. They sound like breaking dishes because, in a way, they are the end of a set you've been eating off of your whole life. Here's a line that will either make you furious or free you. I stopped trying to convert people to my side. If someone couldn't see the difference between help and surrender, I let them. I'm done auditioning for the role of good daughter in a script that sacrifices me in the second act. That might sound cold. It's actually warm. Warm like sunlight on a life I get to live. Did I consider revenge? You bet. I drafted messages I never sent. I pictured calling out every lie. But then I learned the most subversive kind of revenge is thriving without their script. You can comment if you disagree. I want to hear it. Would you go scorched earth? Or would you choose the long game? Therapy, gym, sleep, friends who don't weaponize words like family. Drop your take. Like and share if you've crawled out of a dynamic that demanded your peace as payment. And yes, there was one last twist. Weeks after custody settled, Sabrina texted, "They miss you. You're tearing us apart." I took a breath, felt the old panic knock, and didn't open the door. I wrote, "I love the kids. I will see them at James's as scheduled. I won't be your emergency plan." She replied with what she thought was a mic drop. "You've changed." I smiled. "Yes," I typed. Send. Growth is the plot twist abusers don't anticipate. I'm not a saint. I still get mad. When I remember the officers on my porch because my own sister dialed them, I feel heat in my throat. When I think of Lily asking if I could braid her hair like a real mom, I ache in the soft place where longing lives. When I see Noah sleeping without flinching at door sounds, I feel a peace that doesn't need applause. And when Max writes safe next to my name, I know exactly who I am, the aunt who said no to the wrong thing so the right things could grow. If you're in a storm like mine, here's the practical piece for your toolkit. Keep records, set boundaries in writing, involve professionals early, and don't let anyone shame you out of telling the truth. Family is not a spell that turns neglect into love. It's a choice repeated daily with food, with rides, with listening, with showing up. If you're the only one choosing, that's not family, that's captivity. Before we wrap, let me ask again, am I the asshole or am I the adult who finally refused to be the soft landing for someone else's crash? If you'd revenge in my shoes, tell me how. Seriously, I want to hear your honest take. If you choose boundaries and boring paperwork like I did, say team boundaries in the comments. Hit like if this lit a fuse in your chest. Share it because someone's Lena is out there in a kitchen that smells like pancakes and panic, thinking they're selfish for wanting sleep and safety. Final shock line, the one I say to the mirror, you can love people without letting them wreck you. It doesn't trend like protect your peace, but it works. And when the next doorbell rings in my life, I'll check the camera, open the door if it's love, and close it if it's a test disguised as loyalty. Because the twist isn't what Sabrina did, the twist is who I became. Am I the asshole? I still ask myself that, even now, when the house is quiet and my heartbeat finally matches the clock on the wall. I'm Lena. I'm the aunt who said yes for too long, and then said no once, loudly, with proof. If you're listening on the go, here's the simple truth I had to learn the hard way. Love without boundaries isn't love, it's leakage. It spills into your work, your sleep, your sanity. It soaks everything until you can't tell where you end, and someone else's chaos begins. What changed me wasn't the court date or the cops at my door. It was the kids finally exhaling. It was Noah sleeping through the night, Lily laughing from her belly again, Max drawn safe next to my name. That's when the fog lifted. That's when guilt turned into clarity. I didn't take anything from my sister. I returned responsibility to its rightful owner and helped the kids land where stability lives. Here's what I learned, and maybe it helps you too. First, document everything. Emotions are loud, evidence is louder. Second, say the boundary out loud in writing and repeat it exactly, not a speech, a sentence. Third, accept that some people will prefer the old version of you, the version who bled quietly. Let them, and your job is not to keep everyone comfortable. Your job is to keep the kids safe and yourself sane. Fourth, revenge is tempting, but thriving is the longer, deeper cut. Choose the life that makes their narrative irrelevant. Do I still feel grief? Yes, family loss is a living thing, but peace is louder now. My mornings are steady. My work has color again. When I see the kids, it's joy, not triage. And when the past knocks, I answer with 5 words. That no still stands. Kindly. So tell me, am I the asshole? Would you have gone scorched earth or done what I did? Slow, boring, documented boundaries. Drop your take in the comments. Your stories matter here. If this hit a nerve, tap like so the algorithm doesn't bury it. Share it with someone who's stuck in the guilt machine. And if you've made a hard boundary and survived the fallout, write team boundaries so others know they're not alone. Final promise to myself, and maybe to you, I can love my family without letting them wreck me. That's not cruelty, that's maturity, and that's the ending I choose.